All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back, or welcome to the first edition of this series, which I guess is a series of confronting people who are a little bit more bearish on Palantir. This is Edwin Dorsey. He is the author of The Bear Cave. Very famous Substack, has around 50,000 Substack subscribers. I have this on in the background. Hold on. There it is right there. Has about 50,000 Substack subscribers, about 98,000 Twitter followers. So definitely a big name in the finance community, especially when it comes to FinTwit. I saw one of your portfolios a while back on CNBC. You were like 70% in Twitter. So you definitely believe in Twitter as a distribution platform, which is awesome. And we're going to be talking about the recent short report he put out on Palantir, Bear Report, whatever you want to call it, back on AIP Day just about a week ago. Edwin, thank you for doing this.
Ahmed, thanks so much for having me. We got a lot to discuss, and this should be fun.
This should be fun. All right. So I want to get started off by saying this. I think, the Palantir community has been pretty beat up just in terms of its stock price, obviously falling from $45 to below $6 over the past year and a half. And if anyone is the most skeptical about Palantir, obviously I'm very bullish. I'm also very skeptical because I think the people that love the company the most, that want the company to succeed the most, are the most skeptical internally also about the share price, because we kind of know what's going on in terms of valuations, and we can spot BS. We can spot, stuff that's not BS kind of when we see it. When you put out the report, it was really interesting because I talked to a lot of people in the Palantir community, VCs, private equity directors, hedge fund guys, people that have been here since like DPO, before DPO, people that have had shares, privately in the company before. And it's not that they were angry about the report. It's like, a dad that tries to get his son to just work harder in school, right? And he's like, just work hard, do your homework every day, work hard, do your homework. And then his son comes home one day, the report card comes out and he gets a D. And the dad's like, man, you've been getting A's on all your tests. How do you have a D? And then he finds out his son just hasn't been doing his homework. And it's so, and so he's not angry at his son. He's disappointed. Right. And I think the collective tone of the Palantir community, where we were incredibly disappointed because, you put it behind a paywall. It was $64. For some reason, you sent me the report for free because I guess I'm special. I read it and I was like, man, $64. I don't know if this is worth 64 cents. I could have wrote a better bear report myself. So I guess my first question for you is, do you, before we get into the conversation, take back anything that you have said in the Bear Report, given that we're about to have a discussion on it and that the community has had it for the past 5 days? Or do you stand by pretty much every single claim and word you said in that report?
I mean, I stand by it. These are articles I write in my newsletter, The Bear Cave. And just for broader context here, because not everybody might know about my newsletter and how it operates, is I send 6 emails a month in my newsletter, The Bear Cave. Every Sunday, I provide a recap of news going on in the short world. So I recap other people's activist short reports, highlight notable resignations and interesting tweets. And then twice a month for paid subscribers, on the first and third Thursday of every month at 10:30 a.m. Eastern, I publish these mini deep dive investigations, roughly 1,500 word articles where I criticize publicly traded companies that I feel are misleading investors or harming customers in some sort of way. And that's what I did on Palantir a week ago. And that article seemed to have struck a nerve. So that's why I'm here. But
so again, so you don't take back any word you said. You stand by everything you said in that report.
I stand by the article. Yeah. If you want to bring up a specific sentence or word or something.
There's some specifics we're going to get into. So first, let's get into this.
Around it, but right now, I see no reason to not.
Well, you shouldn't, right? Because you wrote a report. You obviously have a very big following. You should probably stay true to what you said. So I just wanted to confirm that, so I don't pull a rabbit out of your ass or something. Why did you release it on the day of the AIP conference?
Well, I have a schedule where I publish on the first and third Thursday every month. So it's not like I pick and choose which days I publish.
So you had no idea the biggest event in Palantir history was happening that Thursday. You had no idea.
No, I was completely aware. I was aware they were having a conference. If anything, though, it goes hand in hand with publishing an article on that day. They're going to get a lot of attention, and I'm publishing an article on the company the day they're going to get a lot of attention.
Okay, so I guess that goes hand in hand with my question then. If the report is going to get a lot of attention because the conference is getting a lot of attention, why was it behind a paywall?
Well, I mean, that's my model, Ahmed. So, there's kind of 2 ways you can go about doing, I think, bearish biased research. There's what a lot of activist short sellers do, which is they short a stock, they buy puts, they work with the balance sheet partner overseas to take a big position against a company. They do a ton of work, generally hiring private investigators, using a lot of experts, and put out a report and try to move a stock and make money that way. I've chosen a different model. I've chosen to not bet against the companies I write about. So I never short the companies I write about. I don't buy puts. My sole source of income is thousands of reader subscriptions to my
Okay, so I gotta stop you there, because if you were, it's weird, right? Because your entire brand is based off this idea that I'm gonna expose frauds, AI imposters, as you called them, and I'm gonna warn people, my readers, and there's nothing wrong with asking them to pay a little bit for some of that research in order to establish a little business. The problem is, Edwin, there are real people that have real fucking money in this company. And when you put out research like this, and it could cause something negative to go to real people's money, especially if it's wrong research, which we'll get into in a little bit. I believe it is wrong. You may believe it is otherwise. That can have a negative impact. So I guess my question is, do you not think at all that there is any form of ethics in the context of, for example, my YouTube brand is intrinsically tied to Palantir. I make videos on Palantir every day. If I did not own Palantir and I'm telling all of my audience, my 20,000 subscribers, hey, I think Palantir is great. This partnership is awesome. This partnership is awesome. I'm buying more Palantir. This is awesome. And then I didn't actually own the stock. Don't you think there's a little bit of misleading of you're calling Palantir an AI imposter that is basically misleading and frauding investors, and you have no financial stake in the downside of this company?
Well, I never said it's a fraud, and I never said it was a good short. I did call it an AI imposter. And
well, an AI imposter. Wait. So what? How do you define imposter?
I view it more as a consulting company.
No, I know that. How do you define imposter? I don't mean to cut you off, but that word defines a lot of the premise of the debate. So, what is an imposter? I'm assuming imposter means fake, right?
I mean, the layman's usage. Do you want me to look up the word imposter for you?
I think if you look it up, it'll Google common usage will say fake. So if imposter means fake,
a person who pretends to be someone else in order to deceive others.
Okay, so that means fake. We can agree that's fake, correct?
Exaggerated.
Well, hold on. No, we got to agree on some premises. Otherwise, we can't have a conversation. Does imposter equal fake?
I in this context, I would say like exaggerating their capabilities or misleading.
Okay, so fake. So fake. So it's fake. Exaggerating capabilities, fake. Exaggerating capabilities mean it's like if I go out with a girl one night and before we're texting, she's like, "What you cooking with?" And I'm like, "Baby, I got 8 inches." And then we get into the groove of it. There's only 3. That's imposters. That's exaggerating some claims. So when you're saying Palantir is an AI imposter, you are saying they're exaggerating the claims of them putting on an entire conference around AI. If that's the case, how is that not misleading investors? And why don't you have an equity stake in being able to say, hey, this company is fraudulent and you're profiting on the downside of it?
Okay, so to answer your kind of core question that we've been dancing around, why is it behind a paywall? Why do I do my model of, earning money from reader subscriptions rather than trading the stock is, first, I don't do things like most activist short sellers do. I'm better at the early stage of research, relying largely on public information. I don't have the resources or desire to hire private investigators, do some of this deep months-long digging that a lot of big activist short sellers like to do. I view my position as I'm just writing a newsletter expressing my opinions based on information in the public domain as, very defensible and reasonable from a legal perspective. You're unlikely to get sued doing what I do. From a regulatory perspective, you're allowed to express your opinions based on public information, and from a moral perspective, because good faith criticism of large companies is good for society, and presenting evidence on companies that are misleading investors or harming customers is good for a society. This is a sustainable way to do business. And you'll note oftentimes in my articles, it's me going to a regulator, filing FOIA requests for consumer complaints.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. That's a great way to do a business. And not to cut you off, that's a great way to do business. The problem is it doesn't seem like you did all that due diligence you're talking about that makes up the core of a bear report. It doesn't seem like you did any of it for Palantir. That's kind of the problem that we have here. But so let's get into that, right? So let's get into that. So
the point is, I think this model of, doing stuff, a newsletter where you charge for your work makes tons of sense. And one last thing I'd like to add, Ahmed, is I do try to keep it accessible, even though it's priced at, a point, largely for hedge funds, thousands of which subscribe, is almost any student who emails me, I'll give it to them for free. I have a .edu discount for.
Yeah, I mean, look, Edwin, my issue is nothing to do with the money. I'm a capitalist. I don't care. Make your money. My issue is there are people that have a lot of money in this company, and your report can negatively affect their life savings. And it seems like you don't give a fuck about that. That's the only issue.
I don't think if you believe my article will single-handedly destroy Palantir, it seems like a lot bigger of a company than you might think. My article, at most, is going to have a slight impact maybe on the day-to-day. What will impact the company is whether my opinions I express are right and the company's flimsy.
I agree. It's just, when you have 150,000 people that care about you, there is a little bit of responsibility, even if not impact, on the stock that I think that the report will have. But that's neither here nor there. All right, let's get into the depth of the report. So you said you stand by everything you said. Given you said they are an AI imposter, I'm assuming you know what the truth is about AI, because you said they're an AI imposter, right? And I'm focusing on that first because, the thesis of the reason it's run up 100% in a month is because of AI, right? We all know that the market wants AI. Palantir has AI exposure. That's why they're giving it. You are 100% vindicated on everything you said if it is true that they are an AI imposter. So I guess my question is, we'll start off with one question. Can you explain to me what an ontology is when it comes to AI-based analytics?
No, what is ontology? I don't even know.
Wait, hold on. Let me just stop you there. You wrote a report on Palantir saying they're an AI imposter, and you don't know what the word ontology means?
No.
You realize ontology is one of the most crucial elements to understanding how artificial intelligence platforms work, correct?
I've never heard the word ontology in my life.
So how can you call a company an AI imposter? That's like me saying, Gordon Ramsay, you don't know how to cook. And then he says, hey, what's the difference between dull knives and sharp knives? And I'm like, I've never even heard of a knife.
I just haven't heard of the word ontology before.
Okay, let me ask you another one. What are granular access controls when it comes to implementing AI infrastructure?
I'm not familiar with that specific term.
Wait, so Edwin, this is weird because you write a report to 150,000 people saying Palantir is an AI imposter, and you don't know the two most basic elements. I mean, this goes way more advanced. These are basic words. NVIDIA uses the word ontology, for goodness sake, and granular access controls. How do you think you can write a report and stand by that claim if you don't know what these two words mean?
So what I would say is my belief on Palantir was informed by talking to lots of people in the tech community. I know a lot of startup founders. I know a lot of people who work in tech. I have a lot of friends who work in AI. And almost all of them were expressing heavy skepticism about Palantir. That's what kind of got it on my radar just over the years. I heard over and over again people telling me Palantir is more like a consulting company. They go in, they have forward deployed engineers. They go into a large organization, try to build custom software to help them manage their data. People really have it wrong. And just consistently hearing that from people I know in the tech community.
So hold on. So your due diligence for a bear report that has gone out to 150,000 people was, I talked to my startup founder friends.
The genesis of the idea was, that's how it first got on my radar. Now, as you know, you want to do deeper research than just talking to a few friends.
Deeper research enough to know what the word ontology means, Edwin.
Again, I'm not familiar with the word ontology, but
it's almost like if I wrote a bear report on Tesla and then someone asks me, hey, Amit, what is FSD? And I'm like, what the fuck is FSD? I don't know what those three, you realize how this, from my perspective as a shareholder, think about it from a Palantir shareholder's perspective. A guy says this company is an AI imposter, which means it's fake. Just like saying Tesla is not a real tech company. And then I'm like, well, what's FSD? And I'm like, well, it's just a car company. I don't know that FSD could have 80% margins and could be charged $15,000 per car. And, that could totally explode the valuation of the company. When you say you don't know what the word ontology means, by the way, it's not a new word. It's been around for years. Palantir has published many, many white papers about it all over the website. It seems like you didn't even go to their website and read about them. Is that
I
correct?
did. I read about them. I read about their client list. And I think for me,
how do you not know what the word ontology means if you read about them?
Ahmed, you can keep asking me about the word ontology. I'm just going to have the same answer for you, which is, I don't know much about the word ontology. What was informative for me was talking to a lot of people.
Who did you talk to?
A bunch of friends in the startup community.
How successful are those friends? Do they have any exits? How much money have they raised?
Some are running AI startups or work at AI.
Wait. Hold on. So the friends that are running AI startups, how do we know that's not fake AI? How do we know
I'm
that's
not
not
saying,
imposter?
I'm not
How do we know those
expressing.
friends aren't? Hold on. If you tell me I have a friend that's running an AI company and I'm like, how do I know that he's not an imposter? Am I supposed to just trust you versus a public company that's going to do $2 billion in revenue that they're the imposter?
No, I'm not expressing an opinion on that. I'm expressing an opinion on a publicly traded company that has filings, that has disclosures. And to answer your original question of what informs my belief that Palantir is an AI imposter, and you seem to be really, focused on this term AI imposter.
No, wait, wait, and I'm going to let you finish. I'm going to let you talk for like the next 5 minutes, but let me just make it clear to the 500 people that are here. AI is the moat for Palantir. Now, there's a lot of other elements of the moat, but those two letters, especially given how the market's valuing these companies, is the moat. And if the market for 1 second thinks that this company is not an AI company, in your words, they think it's an AI imposter, this stock falls back down to 7. It's that simple.
I agree.
So when you say they're an AI imposter, that's why I'm spending some time on this. And you can go ahead and explain why you think that's the case, because that frames the majority of the bear case, in my opinion. But go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. So to continue on why I believe they're an AI imposter, and I referenced this in the paywalled section of the report, is it can be difficult to truly understand Palantir. It's as I said, a little bit of a black box, and that's what even that's just kind of a well-known term describing Palantir and a lot of the investing community. But from the outside, the little bits and pieces of information you can get that I think are most valuable are expert network call transcripts and TGIS call transcripts. And reading those transcripts with both customers of Palantir and former Palantir employees really changed my opinion of what the company is, and help me inform the belief.
Okay, my next question. So I get it. You talked to a bunch of.
Ahmed, you said you
Sorry.
for 5 minutes, and now we're 1 minute in, and you're interrupting me.
I got 4 minutes on the clock. Go ahead. You got it.
Can I continue? So
yes, you can.
To read here, this is a partial transcript from a March 2023 call conducted with the head of solutions at one of Palantir's clients. Okay. And the expert says, this is what the customer says. Like, obviously there's a licensing fee for Palantir products, but then on top of that, which is also super expensive, there's Palantir squads that are deployed. It's teams of 3 full-time employees that are super expensive. So there you would, again, map them onto these squads, map these costs from these squads, which is already millions a year. So again, that's low millions or single digit millions for these Palantir engineer squads to be deployed in a company. Now then the client who's asking them questions says, you said there's a licensing fee in squads that they deploy. So you're saying each squad is in the low millions a year? And the Palantir client says, yes, exactly. So a squad would be like, I don't know, 3 million or something. And that's like 3 engineers for a whole year. What's the smallest squad? Is it like 3 people? Yeah, 3 full-time employees. And then across an organization, across a Palantir client, you're going to have multiple of these Palantir engineer teams, like squads of 3 forward deployed engineers.
You're proving the consulting firm point, correct?
What?
I said you're proving the consulting firm aspect of it.
I'm trying to make that point. And just to finish off here, normally you don't have it for a full year. You just have it on a use case basis. You get a pool of these squads, and they get deployed for different use cases. But again, they're quite expensive. But again, they have to embed the platform even more. So talking to people who have, either the expert network call transcript community, or people who have interacted with Palantir products, or people in the tech world, the kind of common denominator here is people say, this isn't really just AI software that sells itself. This is very much like a consulting company. You get a big company in an industry that's kind of old, that has a lot of data, that might not be tech so focused, with a little old data science team, and Palantir can be an alternative to your maybe mediocre data science team. They come in, they send a bunch of forward deployed engineers before contracts signed to assess the problem. They look at the problems. They draft up an agreement with how Palantir can generate value. They build internal software for a business. And then that software, the data, can go onto like a Palantir platform, or Palantir can apply its technology to help interpret that data, to help a business make better decisions. And by and large, that is what a consulting business does. This is a consulting business. They send engineers into a company, they draft a contract, they make an agreement, they build software. This is a multi-year sales cycle. These are $1 million contracts. This is a consulting business that makes software for large corporations and governments. That is what Palantir is. And this is not a business that should be trading at 15 times revenue or 150 times.
Understood. Okay. So I think we have to make a distinction here between the word consulting and a consulting company. Because let me say I agree with you, Edwin. They are absolutely consulting with companies. Like it takes 18 months to set up a contract, all that stuff. I agree with you 100%. They are consulting. And I actually think that's part of the moat, because you can't build a transformational data-driven operations analytic platform for your business if you're Snowflake, right? You just download Snowflake and then you operate it. That's not changing your business. You kind of need to work with some guys, which is why if you watch the AIP conference, instead of publish a report the day before it came out, all 6 of those companies, multi-hundred billion, Cisco's $200 billion client is saying, we like Palantir because they consult with us and they work with us. So I think there's a difference here between consulting firm and consulting company. So I guess here's my question. What are the margins on Deloitte, KPMG, and Accenture, the biggest consulting companies in the world?
Well, are you talking about the gross margins or the profit margins?
Because the gross margins. What are the gross margins?
Are going to be like a lot lower, like 20% or something.
Okay, so Palantir's gross margins are, last time I checked, 82%. So even though they do consulting, the money that ultimately comes in, I know they're not super profitable yet, but the money that comes in, 82% of every dollar goes to the bottom line. How is that? Hold on. How should that be valued as a consulting firm? That's my question.
Hold on. Now that's where I would disagree with you. So my understanding is Palantir's gross margins are in the 75 to 80 range.
No, they're not. They're in the 82. That's public data. They're 82%. Their operating margins are definitely lower, but their gross. We're talking about the software they sell. The operating margins, I agree, they're shit because they SBC, all that stuff. But I'm saying, how does a firm that makes money off hiring Harvard MBAs to make stupid PowerPoint presentations to go give to companies, right? That's what these KPMG, Deloitte does. How is that Palantir? And why don't they deserve a multiple as a tech company if they have 82% gross margins? That's my question.
Okay, you view gross margins as this like very clear-cut thing. That's a wonder of Palantir, 82% gross margins. I view gross margins as that there's a huge amount of discretion for any public company, especially a company like Palantir, and how to allocate cost among gross margins or research and development or sales and marketing. When Palantir sends a forward deployed engineer to a company, is that being accounted for in the cost of goods sold or research and development? And oftentimes my understanding is these Palantir employees, aren't specifically sequestered to one division. You can be a forward deployed engineer some of the time, and then you can be back working for Palantir, on their broader projects. So the line between what is a cost of goods sold and what's in research development or sales and marketing, at least to me, is incredible. For any business, you have a huge amount of discretion in where to allocate your costs. And for Palantir in particular, you have even more discretion because you just have 3,000 plus engineers.
Yeah, Edwin, I agree with you. I'm just saying, you're saying they shouldn't get the multiple as a tech company. And what I'm saying is they're selling software that is in the 100, like yesterday. We're going to talk more about their deals. They got 400. Did you know the deal they got yesterday?
Yeah, they announced some government contract on the order.
Do you know how much that government contract was worth?
I think roughly 500 million over 5 years.
Okay, so I guess my question is, why is the government giving 500 million to a consulting firm?
That happens all the time. Booz Allen Hamilton announces $100 million contracts all the time.
But what are they doing? Hold on, what are they doing for the government? This is so Palantir is implementing in the press release AI infrastructure and large language models. I'm sure you know what LLMs are, right?
Yes.
Okay, because you didn't know what ontology was, so I'm just making sure. LLMs into the military. That's what is either the press release is fucking lying or that's the truth. How is that the same as doing Booz Allen Hamilton like PowerPoint presentations? Like, can you explain the difference between those two?
You seem to have a view that, normal consultants just make PowerPoint presentations.
That's what they do, Edwin.
Is right? Doing some. Well, I saw you constantly compare them to Booz Allen Hamilton. I looked on Booz Allen Hamilton's site, and Booz Allen Hamilton also says they're very AI focused and tech enabled. In fact, I'd like to read to you one press release Booz Allen Hamilton put out on May 3rd. When Booz Allen Hamilton said, Booz Allen selects Credo AI to deliver responsible AI solutions. And here's a quote from the press release. AI is an emerging and vital force for fortifying the United States' competitive prowess amid a rapidly evolving global landscape, said Credo AI, the founder of Credo AI. We are eager to support the pursuit of innovation that is not only impactful, but is also responsible. Our partnership with Booz Allen establishes a formidable platform to champion AI's potential while ensuring its responsible procurement, development, and deployment across the U.S. government. We look forward to laying the foundation for a future in which trust in this game-changing technology is unwavering and is value maximized for the benefit of all. So yeah, a lot of companies are like getting on this AI bandwagon saying we're going to build
Edwin,
US government.
read
Well,
the first line.
if you're going to have me on and ask me really tough, pointed questions, it's only fair for me to respond. And my point here is, you're saying Palantir is getting government contracts for AI related things. I'm saying, a lot of companies say they're doing AI related stuff. Government procurement is a complete and total mess. It's not like, Palantir has been extremely profitable building these AI solutions. It's just with government procurement, it's very much a black box into what's going on. And that's just one of the Booz Allen Hamilton's often described as a black box. It is tough to understand the nature and procurement around government contracts. And if you look at Booz Allen Hamilton, which is also saying they're AI tech focused, which is also partnering with AI companies, which is also doing huge contracts with the US government, they're trading at like 2 times revenue or 3 times revenue.
But Edwin,
trades at 15 times revenue.
Read the first line of what you just told me. Read the first line again.
AI is an emerging and vital force for
No. You got to do the one before that. Read the line before that.
Booz Allen selects Credo AI to deliver responsible AI solutions.
Let's stop there. So the consulting firm selected an AI company to then implement their software into their clients. Do you see the difference between the company that focuses on AI, that they selected, versus Booz Allen Hamilton saying they do AI? Obviously, Booz Allen Hamilton is not doing the AI. They're selecting a company, just like Accenture has partnered with Palantir. So how is Booz Allen Hamilton the same thing as Palantir when you just read that they partnered with an AI company, not them literally implementing AI infrastructure?
No. Booz Allen Hamilton has a dedicated focus on their website for AI. It's not like, they had nothing and they just partnered with Credo AI. It's a small part of a bigger process for Booz Allen Hamilton on a lot of AI. You can literally just go to Booz Allen's site right now. There's a whole subpage on AI. They've been talking about it for a while. And look, I don't want to get into this like speculation game into, how much Booz. It's just my point is, there's a lot of companies, beating the drum on saying we're AI enabled, we're AI focused. It's just nothing crazy to say, look, government contractors say they're doing stuff related to AI. Government contracting is like a very messy, grifty, crazy world. And I just don't see why people want to say, Palantir gets a big government contract over 5 years. That it's good. Might earn $20 million, but I don't see how that makes it a $30 billion company. That's where
Edwin, we got to go ahead, finish.
That's kind of the point. I'm not saying Palantir is a worthless company or a fraud or there's nothing there. I'm saying it's tough for me to get to the $30 billion market cap.
Okay.
$2 billion in revenues and maybe $100 million in profits this year.
Got it. Okay. So again, I got to stay on this for a little bit before we move on, because Edwin, I'm serious. You're not making sense here. Booz Allen Hamilton is not implementing the LLMs or AI infrastructure into a company or into a government agency. Credo AI is. If you can find me the Booz Allen Hamilton AI data scientists that are actually building the models and training the models, I would be very surprised, because it seems like they're partnering with Credo AI. I don't care if their website says they talk about AI. They're a consulting firm. Of course, they have AI solutions. But who's doing the tech? That is my question. So when you say Palantir is just another governmental contractor, if they were just a Booz Allen Hamilton, I agree. And the margins probably suck. But Palantir is not partnering with Credo AI. Palantir is building the tech via the consulting firm model, whatever you want to call it, into the government, which creates those types of margins. So I just don't understand how you think KPMG has the same type of technology as Palantir, because then they both deserve the same type of multiples because they're both consulting firms, when it seems like one is a tech firm, one is not.
No, I'm not saying Booz Allen is the same as Palantir. I definitely think Palantir has some advantages here, okay? What I'm saying is Booz Allen Hamilton trades at 1.5 times revenue. And if you want to believe Palantir has an advantage here, maybe they should trade at 2 times revenue or 3 times revenue. I don't get how you get to 15 times revenue. Or if Booz Allen trades, I don't get where this the 15 times revenue is the right thing. I'm not saying they're equivalent. I'm saying it's ballpark somewhat similar. Palantir is deploying engineers to either a government agency or a large corporation. They're looking at how the data is managed. Oftentimes, Palantir is working with the not most tech savvy of clients. You don't see like Uber as a client of Palantir, or Amazon or Snowflake or Meta. These are often like, hospitals or, engineering firms like Jacob, or just kind of stodgy, like old industry companies that need help managing their data. Palantir comes in as a consultant. They send a team of engineers, and charge the client a lot for that team of engineers to go and help build software to manage your data better. And that data can be fed into a Palantir platform, and Palantir can use its AI capabilities to maybe like improve know your customer compliance at a big bank or something. It's just, I don't understand how we're getting to this should be 15 times revenue. That's where I don't understand.
Okay, so
15.
I got it.
Let me finish, Ahmed. 15 times revenue is good for somebody that's building this software that sells itself, that's extremely profitable, that is on fire, growing like crazy. 15 times revenue isn't what should occur when you're just running a consulting business, is hiring engineers, sending engineers somewhere, building software for a large corporation and helping them manage their data a little better. That is not what 15 times revenue multiple is reasonable.
Yeah, I guess we just have a fundamental disagreement on if Palantir is a tech company or not. And look, the next question I ask will definitely let me know if you know anything about Palantir when it comes to.
Well, I mean, why do you say like if I know anything? I'm saying you can be a
well, because here's the question. 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 Here's the question.
What are you specifically doing? And when you're specifically
okay. Here's not a buzzword. Here's not a buzzword.
To a client.
Here's not a buzzword. Here's my question. What is IL level 6?
It's one of the government like security clearances for managing data. And I understand that Amazon and Microsoft are the two only companies to have that, and Palantir does. But you say these
okay, hold on. So so here's my question. You realize that the level of confidentiality in this data that goes to these types of companies that can manage that type of stuff does not go to a consulting firm. For example, let me take your attention very quickly to this. The National Nuclear Security Administration awards $89.9 million to Palantir to protect the nuclear codes. Do you think a AI imposter, the company you said is faking and misleading investors on their AI data-driven capabilities, would get the ability to secure the nuclear codes for the United States of America if they were a fake company?
Ahmed, what does this have to do with AI? Like this sounds like they're a government contractor that does a lot for the government. I mean, why are you saying AI? What does the $90 million government contract to secure government information have to do with AI? That's just there's tons of businesses that do lots of contracting with the government that aren't AI companies. And in fact, most people realize government contracting is kind of a brutal business. It's very it's just not something that trades at 15 times revenue, especially if you're not profitable doing it. I don't get
Edwin.
You showed me a press release that didn't mention AI once. What does that have to do with AI?
You can't keep saying the company doesn't deserve to trade at 15.
Ahmed?
Okay, so my argument here is that you can't say the company doesn't deserve to be traded at 15 times revenue. You don't. The argument you need to win is.
Ahmed, I can't hear you. You're frozen right now. Ahmed, I can't hear you. You're frozen. I'm sticking around here, but Ahmed is. I think you're.
Okay,
frozen.
I'm here. We're good.
Okay, and now I can hear you. Yes.
Okay, so sorry about that. I guess the Wi-Fi is like, damn, this debate's getting kind of hot. My point here is like, you only get to win that the company shouldn't be trading at 15 times revenue or whatever if you win. Like, so this is how arguments work. You got to win the first premise to get to the second. So your argument that Palantir should be a, $5 billion company, $7 billion company, whatever, only happens if you win this first claim, that their AI tech moat is not real. It's an imposter. And my question is, go ahead.
Well, I disagree with that premise. I'm not saying Palantir is a worthless company. They have nothing. They are exactly like every other consulting firm. I'm saying they are more or less functioning like a consulting firm. They send engineers to a client. They look at how the client is managing the data, like a hospital, like a construction company, like a power firm, an energy company. They see like, oh, wow, there's a lot of inefficiencies with how you use your data. There's a lot of inefficiencies with how a bank chooses to accept or reject a customer. We're going to send our engineers to go in, build software for you. We're going to pay our engineers one rate. We're going to charge you a much higher rate for the engineers. And then once we have kind of access to your data, we can implement our kind of internal software, our AI capabilities to help you make a decision on whether or not a bank should accept or reject a client as a customer. Stuff like that. And that is kind of different than a consulting firm. It deserves maybe a slightly higher multiple, but I don't see it as like, oh, this is some revolutionary, crazy thing deserving a 15 times revenue multiple. And everyone I talk to in the industry seems to have a similar.
Okay, so let's have this discussion. And
the Tigas transcripts show a very clear picture where people are like, this is
the Tigas transcripts show a picture, but you not knowing what ontology is also showing a picture that you're defining these words around AI, but you don't know what they mean. Who's helping Ukraine beat back Russia right now?
So this is what I like to say about black box. Yeah, I understand Palantir has some contracts, relevant to the war in Ukraine. But I mean, like that. Yeah, Alex Karp, when asked, like, hey, what would you say to the skeptics? How can you show like you guys are really killing it? He just says, ask Russia. What type of answer is that? How are we supposed to value a company?
Wait, hold on. You think the CEO of a public company on national television should be able to eagerly disclose very confidential shit that's going on in a war right now, when, by the way, there's been many press releases by the Washington Post, New York Times, etc., that have detailed what Palantir is doing in Russia. So
I'm saying it's a little
when he says ask the Russians, his argument is that the Russians are losing.
Yeah, but again, this is like, kind of like frivolous dance around the real issue type of stuff. I mean, are you saying Palantir is worth $30 billion because they're a government contractor helping manage data in the war in Ukraine? I mean,
no, Edwin, hold on. Do not sidetrack this right now. I asked you a very specific question. This is a country that is losing its sovereignty because a dictatorial regime said, we're going to invade in. Now, whatever political beliefs you have on that, that's irrelevant. I think we should all agree we shouldn't have Russia take over a country. We can all agree on that as Americans. If that's the case, the only software company that is, and this is Zelensky said this is not me hypothesizing this, that's actually helping them beat back Russia because they don't have tactical nukes, but they do have software, is Palantir. How does that not deserve some bit of credibility? Is that an AI imposter?
Okay, again, you just threw in the word AI there. Like
no. Do not turn this on me. Your entire report is that Palantir is an AI imposter. My question is, how is a company helping Ukraine not get destroyed by the Russians using artificial intelligence to do tracking on the battlefield, which is their Gotham software? I don't know if you ever heard of Gotham. That's one of their core offerings. How is that an imposter? That's my question.
Well, I mean, I need to know more about what they're actually doing. I mean, there's a lot of people, businesses, involved in the war in Ukraine.
What other companies are giving Ukraine software? What other companies?
I need to know more about what they're specifically doing. And
what other companies are giving Ukraine software?
Palantir has nothing. I'm saying by and large, this is like a consulting business. I just don't get what's like. I can't speak to the specifics of what Palantir is doing in the war in Ukraine.
Okay, let me tell you, they're doing targeting. They're doing targeting. That's from a press release.
What specifically are they doing?
They're killing Russian soldiers from Ukraine. That's called boom, boom, target. What else more do you need to know? What other?
I want to know specifically what do they do? Are they making? Are they helping? Could create guided missiles? Are they taking information that the military?
Okay, so hold on.
Movements and trying to predict where they're going to go next. What specifically is Palantir doing?
If you knew anything about Gotham, do you know what Gotham is from Palantir?
It's one of their like main platforms: Gotham, Foundry,
Okay,
AIP.
which clients use Gotham the most?
I'm going to guess
Oh,
the government, but
oh, thank God, because if you did not know that, yeah, governments use Gotham. Edwin, I'm not trying to make you sound like an idiot, but you can't write a bear report around a company and then say you don't know the main clientele of one of 3 platforms they use. So, okay.
Well, I did, and Amit,
Well,
again,
you guessed.
you say
You
like
guessed.
short report, like big thing. I'm just writing articles twice a month on companies that I believe are misleading investors or harming customers. And in this case, I think Palantir, is misleading its larger retail investor base about how the company operates. My understanding, just as a complete outsider, not knowing the company well at all, is completely different after spending time talking to people who are more intimately familiar with the company. It's just that simple. This is not,
But Edwin, so again, and when you just said,
and Amit, well, why can't you tell me what they're doing
no,
specifically?
I'm literally, so, okay, here we go. Do you know what Meta Constellation is?
No.
So hold on. Now, before you respond, let me just explain. This is why I cannot believe you wrote this report, because Gotham goes hand in hand with Meta Constellation. Meta Constellation is Palantir's ability to use Edge AI. I'm assuming you don't know what Edge AI is because you're just throwing around the word AI imposter all the time. Edge AI connects real-time geospatial data. You're going to say I'm buzzwords, but these are actual terms in the industry that connects immediately to tracking devices on the battlefield. Hold on, so that Ukrainians can target Russians, so that the United States military in Afghanistan could target other Afghanis. That's the value proposition of their software that you're saying is an imposter. And I just don't understand how you can ethically say Palantir is misleading investors when that's what's going on in Ukraine. It doesn't seem like you did any of the due diligence, my guy.
Again, you like to just rely on the company statements around these sort of things. I'd like to know specifically like what exactly is going on and how they're like what specifically they are doing. I'm not saying they're not helping at all or they're a detriment. I would just, it's just tough to tell from the outside what exactly they're doing and what multiple to assign to it. And I don't get why this is so crazy that, hey, this is not pure cut software AI. Oftentimes what they need to do is they hire their own engineers. They send the engineers to places that have a lot of data like the US military, and they help the military interpret their data better. And depending on the channel in which you're doing that affects your valuation a lot. If you've just got a pure cut software like, hey, buy our software and everything gets a lot better for you, that's a very high moat, high value, very profitable business. But if your selling point is different, which is we have thousands of engineers, we can send 50 teams of 3 engineers into your organization, integrate them, build you custom software, make a customized project to help you, and then charge you a fee for that. I'm not saying that's worthless or not useful or not helpful. I'm just saying that's a much less high value business model because it's harder to repeat, it's harder to scale, it's going to be less profitable, and it's going to be subject to the ebbs and flows of the US government, which is why we haven't seen Palantir be killing it from a financials perspective. This is a company that's growing 20% a year with profit margins that are just starting to turn marginally positive. That is kind of the issue for me. I'm not saying that this company doesn't do anything to help.
No, I know you're not saying that.
The channel in which they do that matters a lot, and we just do not have the specifics because government contracting, for better or for worse, is a black box.
Okay, so 2 things there. Number 1, I agree with you on the numbers, by the way. 18% year-over-year growth, shit. We're reaching GAAP profitability after 20 years of being a company, not the best. And I think that can change. I think increased demand will change that, increased revenue, all that stuff. Again, we disagree on the trajectory of the company, but I agree with you. The current financials right now aren't amazing. I agree. The problem is you keep calling it a black box. And then I ask you a question like, what's Meta Constellation? What's Gotham? And you don't really have an answer. And this is not personal, but you wrote a bear report saying, I talked to friends. And I don't know what friends you talk to, but when you write a bear report, you got to, again, Tesla, you got to know what's the value prop of FSD. If you don't know what Meta Constellation is, because you're saying, Amit, give me the specifics on targeting, it's a black box. And I'm literally telling you, they take geospatial data intelligence. They even invest in a company that helps them do that. And then they bring that back via Edge AI to do targeted tracking and targeting on the battlefield. I mean, that is a very basic explanation of what they do. You're saying that's a black box. And so my question is, do you think maybe it's a black box because you didn't do any research?
No, I think it's a black box because, even people who are spending a lot of time looking at this company can't get a firm grasp on whether it's consulting, whether it's software, whether it's
Maybe
something
that's
better
just
or
you,
worse than
Edwin.
that.
Maybe that's just you, because the market's it's up 130%. Maybe
Yes.
it's you. Maybe it's not the bulls.
Yeah, I'm taking a contrarian view here. I'm saying by and large, the market, and Palantir seems to be a very retail heavy community, seems to think this is a great AI play. And my view, my contrarian view, my view on why this is not a $30 billion company isn't that they have nothing and they're useless and they're dumb and they're like every other consulting firm. It's that this is by and large not like a pure play AI software thing. This is a business that sends forward deployed engineers into a large
But
agency or
Edwin,
government.
you don't get to win. You don't get to win. It's not a pure play. I agree with you on the consulting. I've already conceded that. You don't get to win. It's not pure play AI software if you call them an AI imposter. And it just seems like with all the stuff we talked about today, this AI fraud, and you just said 10 minutes ago, I think they're misleading retail investors, meaning they're lying about their AI capabilities. How can you hypothesize that they're lying about their AI capabilities by talking to a bunch of friends and saying they're a consulting firm? Because it seems like you have to actually know the tech.
The genesis for this was talking to people in the industry, and a lot of people coming to me saying, "Yeah, Palantir, it's more or less a consulting firm."
Yeah, but I talk to people in the industry and they say the opposite. So how do we reconcile?
And then you look at Tegas, you look at Hacker News, people are saying, "Yeah, this is more or less a consulting company." You try to understand.
Edwin, hold on. That's just bad citation of sources. I've talked to hundreds of people over the past year that tells me it's not a consulting firm. That tells me it's a real thing. So how do we trust your sources versus mine? Because if that's the evidentiary basis for this report, who do we trust?
Well, I mean, I lay out the evidence. You can go look at the expert network call transcripts yourself. I mean, are you just disagreeing that Palantir's model is to send forward deployed engineers and tons of engineers into the company?
No. The opposite, actually. The opposite. This is what I've been trying to say. This is why I thought it was disingenuous. And again, that's not an attack at you, but there's an attack at the model of releasing the report before AIPCon. Because if you listen to Cisco, Cleveland Clinic, JD Power, Panasonic say, hey, Palantir consults with us and we like that. I think if you did a little bit of research, you may say, oh, that's part of the moat that they're, and this is actually very scalable as the network effects ultimately scale. But it seems like you just like talk to people. You didn't actually listen to clients on the day you released the report that are saying, hey, this is software that's working with us in a meaningful way. So
that's what the consulting is. People, you have clients and the clients say, yes, this helps us. This firm is helping us. They're building software.
Edwin, it's not helping us make PowerPoints. It's helping us literally deploy. So Cisco, for example, they have to deploy WebEx. They make the video camera software. They have to work in Australia, Latin America, Japan, America, totally different regulatory frameworks. They're using Apollo, which is the third part of Palantir software, which is, I don't even want to ask you if you know what that is, because I'm not going to do that. That uses back-end architecture to be able to do simultaneous deployments at scale. That's the type of technology and consulting that Palantir is implementing into Cisco. How is that a traditional consulting firm? And you would only know that if you watch the presentations, but you didn't.
Yeah, that isn't what consultants do. I mean,
that's my point. They're not a consultant. That's my point. They're not a consultant.
You have, I think, a very simplified view of what consulting is, which is just making PowerPoint presentations.
Well, tell me what it is then. Tell me what, because all my friends became consultants and every day all they do is make PowerPoint. So tell me what it is.
Generally, you get an intimate understanding of a business and you help them understand. You help them manage their decision making better, and that can be through a PowerPoint. That
you have to present it right,
more intimate, which is building software, helping with procurement, dealing with suppliers.
Edwin, all of this is presentations to the client.
You can go.
If hold on. If Coca-Cola hires Accenture to say, hey, we have a supply chain issue, we have a marketing issue, blah blah blah, Accenture is going to send some fancy MBAs. They're going to assess the business, work intimately with them, and then present, whether it's on Google Slides or PowerPoint or Canva, a presentation. If you're saying that's what Palantir is and that's what they should be valued as, and please tell me if there's more to this consulting thing, because that's literally what you said. Like,
No,
is there anything else to
I
that?
think again that there's many different types of like consulting. You know, there's people that can come in and they can like change the way your plant works and the workflows. There's tons of different like I don't know where you're getting this idea that all consultants just make PowerPoint, but Palantir is special in that it can make software.
When I say
I mean,
consultants build PowerPoints, obviously I'm being hyperbolic to say consultants don't implement LLMs into a company. Correct?
that's what some like large consulting contracts. If you're going to sign a 500 like Booz Allen Hamilton or something, a
Booz
huge
Allen Hamilton's not doing that. Credo AI is. That's the difference. KPMG is not implementing an LLM. You know how many years it takes to be able to build? Like OpenAI took 7 years to be able to come out with ChatGPT. You're saying a consulting firm can implement an LLM into a company? Like, are you actually saying that?
Again, you like to say LLM. I'd like to say what's the specific use case you're solving for, and how repeatable and replicable and scalable is it, you know, across your client base? Because you know, with Palantir, again, if you're going in and you need to send tons of engineers to go and build internal software, which is like what a consultant does. I'm not saying that's a bad business. I'm not saying that's an awful business, but at scale, that's a business that, you know, is going to have, you know, relatively modest profit margins and just does not deserve 15 times revenue. And what I'm asking you, Amit, is what informs your belief that this is a $30 billion company? Why should this trade at 15 times revenue and not 5 times revenue or 50 times revenue?
Well, I think the simple argument is just growth. And I have already agreed with you at the beginning of this call that growth is bad this year. I've agreed with you. Growth is not good. The question is, do you believe Alex Karp when he says a year's worth of demand is coming in a month?
No,
like, you either have to believe him or not, right? And the numbers will show. Someone's going to be right. I'm not saying you're right, I'm wrong. I'm just saying to be able to say it's an AI imposter, therefore deserves a 2x multiple as a consulting firm, to me is absurd given the level of breadth of contracts and technical things they've worked on. I get the business side. They go into companies, they help them. I actually think that's a moat that they have. To say that's not scalable and to say that there's no margins to that are similar to tech companies, to me, doesn't really make sense.
Well, you know, it does make sense to me, at least, because you are paying an engineer, let's say $500,000 a year. You're charging the client $1 million a year, and then you have a lot of overhead costs. And, you know, there's going to be some margin on that. Versus for a software company, you build the software once, you sell it over and over again, and it's a beautifully scalable
No, but that's what Palantir does. That's what Palantir does. They build, hold on, Foundry, they build a software and then they specifically implement that software into an organization. They don't literally have to rebuild Foundry. They don't have to rebuild Docker.
And that's why Palantir has an advantage over a normal consulting firm. I am not saying Palantir is the same as, I'm saying what they're doing is, you know, it goes hand in hand with needing to send a lot of engineers into a business, paying those engineers and, you know, tooling around to help that business manage its data better. And
what is the downside to that? What is the, you keep saying they pay engineers. What is the downside to that? Why is that bad? Because it seems like you're saying that's a negative thing.
Yeah, because this is not a like infinitely scalable thing like software where you can just sell it over and over and over and over again. This is not pure software. This is stuff that where you need to like integrate in a highly customized solution for a business. So it's more like consulting, which has a lot lower margins and is a lot less scalable.
But Edwin, then the question becomes,
has a lot higher margins and is a lot more scalable.
I agree. Then the question becomes the type of software that Palantir is building in terms of transforming an entire business. If that is out of the box as a solution, that usually isn't going to transform your entire business. This is why
you say it's
no. What do you mean I'm saying this? You want to talk about some competitors that aren't really producing transformational results for an entire enterprise? I mean, we can have that conversation. But my point is, Alex Karp has constantly said that other companies are building commoditized software, which in the rise of AI, I think we both can agree most software is being commoditized. So if that's the case, and you're saying it doesn't deserve a multiple that's scalable or that can be implemented in a highly specialized way, you just want them to build some out-of-the-box software that they give to an organization because that's more scalable. Is that more valuable?
Yeah, that would be if you had software that you can just sell to any organization and bam, you know, it transforms them. That's hugely valuable.
Well, then, but the problem is what's the moat? The problem is where's the moat? Because then you have to acquire companies like Snowflake. They just had to acquire Neva, which is an AI LLM company, because they don't have a generative AI moat. And that's why investors punish them on their earnings. Do you see how Palantir doesn't have to acquire the company because they're building the tech itself? Because you have to have some moat that's customizable.
Again, I think you're using this AI as like a catch-all phrase where I want to know what specifically are they doing? Did you build artificial intelligence to help, banks determine
Yes.
whether or not to accept a customer better?
Yes.
Then like I get that that's one of their use cases. How much better is that than, a traditional method?
Did you know BP bought 1% of Palantir for $413 million in 2021 after they worked with them for the past 7-8 years? Do you think an oil and gas company is going to buy 1% of the company if they don't see value? And I'm only bringing up this example because you're like, well, how do they use the software? And I'm telling you, a major oil and gas company that their cost of barrels went down from $14 to get a barrel to $6 on their latest Q1 earnings, and they credit that entire $8 difference to Palantir. Are you telling me that's... Go ahead.
This is what consultants do. We came in, we helped them improve their decision making. Cost of a barrel went down. I mean, you're describing by and large like what sounds like a consulting business.
But BP is paying for... Edwin, BP is paying hundreds of millions of dollars for software to do that.
I mean, well, software made by Palantir engineers. Yes, they're paying Palantir engineers to build.
They're paying for software. Foundry, which is a flagship software. They had some FDEs come in and implement it into their company, and now you're saying it's like it doesn't deserve the margin.
Well, how many full-time employees? How many full-time employees worked on the BP? Was it just 1 or 2 for 6 months?
No, I'm sure it was. It had to be a lot. BP is a very big client, but don't you see where that's the value in the software they're implementing, not the PowerPoint presentation they're giving, which is why BP wanted to buy $413 million of the company.
Again, you say the PowerPoint presentation. I think that's like a very oversimplified view. And I know we have maybe 1 or 2 questions you wanted to get to, so I don't want to drag this on.
We have like 5 minutes left. So do I have anything left? No, I think that's... I mean, I guess the last thing is the Glassdoor reviews. I guess this was really weird in the report. Like, there are some people that were angry at sales, and they wrote it on Glassdoor. Edwin, every company has a lot of people writing shit on Glassdoor. It just, again, you have a good argument. I read those reviews, and a lot of them were like, the sales culture sucks. Every Palantir investor will tell you the sales culture definitely sucks, like, because it's not a sales-driven organization. Why is that a reason to short the stock or to be not long the company, I guess?
Well, I said it's part of a broader mosaic, and it kind of hints at this point where if they had some amazing software, it would be really easy to sell. But, if you're if you have some amazing thing, it's generally easier to sell. If this is actually like highly nuanced, complex, multi-year implementations, it's like, it kind of reinforces the idea that they have like a less like, pure play thing they can sell, and it's more like this is like
you're taking it pure,
having difficulty increasing its sales. So one big thing for the future of Palantir is how much will they be able to increase their sales? How fast will revenue grow? And if you're having a lot of turnover among your salespeople, if you're having the chief accounting officer resign, if you're having other issues, that's like a kind of
Edwin,
parts of the mosaic that might suggest that the sales growth in the future isn't going to be as great as it is. When sales are booming, you don't see as much turnover with salespeople.
Right, and look, you may be right on that, but this is where the difference comes between Snowflake, a company that spends 70% on revenue on sales and marketing. Now, I know Snowflake's a lot bigger than Palantir. Why is Palantir not spending 70% of revenue on sales and marketing? Because the product, as highly nuanced as it is to sell, is a product that seems to be way more transformational when you get it through the door than anything that the competitors can offer. I agree with you. That's not fully scalable, which is why some of these salespeople are angry and they left. But to say that's a reason why the broader mosaic of the company is a shit show, which is kind of what you were implying in the article, I think that's disingenuous. There's so many people that have read horrible things about Meta or Amazon on Glassdoor. Does that mean those companies are failing? Like, it's confusing to me there.
No, what I'm saying is if you look on Glassdoor, and I encourage everybody, there's just tons of negative sales and not really much positive on the sales culture. And it kind of reinforces this idea that, hey, it's not adding up. If this was truly phenomenal, it should be easy to sell. The salespeople should be getting fat commissions, and the salespeople should be happy. But if by and large you have a dysfunctional sales organization, it kind of doesn't add up. And it goes hand in hand with the other point I brought up in my article, which was about these SPAC deals, where Palantir is spending $400 million in equity investments to help incentivize companies to use its products. If you're so good, so much better than the competition. Why do you need to be making equity investments to help induce people to be using your product? Or
yeah, so
thing,
I mean, I we got to go in 5 minutes, but quickly on the SPACs. This was the stuff that made people really weirded out. The SPAC shit is over. Karp not only admitted his mistake. I don't know if he was with Andrew Ross Sorkin. I can play the video, but we've got to go. He literally said, we made a mistake. It was wrong. So that's over. The fallout from that in terms of the equity losses, they've already written them off. If you looked at any of the balance sheets, I mean, most of them are gone. There's like a couple of them left. Those are going to go to zero. It's going to go to shit. So you know, Google has a VC fund. Salesforce has a VC fund. You know, Oracle has a VC fund. They invest in 100 companies. They're hoping one of them might be the next big player that they can integrate into their organization. And 99 out of 100 times, most of it fail. Usually 100 out of 100 times it fails because building a company is hard. So for you to argue that the SPAC deal, where they took a speculative bet on some companies that ended up failing, and they already admitted the mistake, and this was like a year ago's worth of news, which is why when I was talking to some of my friends, they're like, why is he talking about this? I guess, why is that even part of the bear case anymore?
So I don't view it as they're just making equity investments in a bunch of speculative companies that perform poorly. I view it as they made an equity investment and then forced that company simultaneous with the equity investment to purchase Palantir software. And that's where
it's not like the company's using the software. I don't see what's so unethical about this. If Google invests in me and then I use if Google invests in me and then I use GCP over AWS, are you telling me that's unethical?
I'm saying if Google gave you $20 million and then
Correct.
said, hey, the day after I give you $20 million, send $15 million back to me.
Wait, hold on. What if I need $15 million worth of compute?
What?
Just like this is literally what Microsoft did with OpenAI. They gave them 10 billion and then they said you got to pay a shit ton of that in compute. They give Azure credits. How is that not the same?
So I'd like you to let me answer the question. Oftentimes you let me
go ahead. Just address the Microsoft OpenAI example or the GCP, because again, if you pay for a company, you give them a shit ton of money, and then you're like, by the way, you're going to need storage, you're going to need compute to train those models, you're going to need Foundry, you might as well pay us. How is that unethical?
Well, a lot of these are companies that I question whether or not they even have the ability to use Palantir stuff. For example, like Boxed or Wejo or Bird. These are like fledgling businesses that
But how do you know that? Did you do due diligence in those companies? Because I know Wejo. I personally know the CEO. He's explained to me in Las Vegas, Nevada, how they use Foundry. How do you know they're not supposed to use Foundry?
This is a company that's down. Well, the easiest example might be like Embark Trucking or something, where you have like 6 test trucks. How can you use like tens of millions of dollars worth of Palantir software? But more importantly, if you are using their software, that's fine. It's the let me pay you to use our software so we can present the illusion of revenue growth. That's where I get concerned. And then you do it hand in hand with other pieces in the mosaic. You are paying companies tons of money just for them to send you the money back the next day so you can show revenue growth. Bloomberg also reported, and I want to read to you the quote from the article that I included in the newsletter.
You can read it. It's just we've heard this article. This issue is done.
No, this is not SPAC related. Bloomberg reported in September 2020, quote, that Palantir would offer compensation to founders for their equity stake if they shifted all of their services to Palantir's main data handling platform. So in some cases, Palantir is directly investing in a company to make them purchase Palantir products. In other cases, Bloomberg's reporting, allegedly, Palantir sought to give money directly to founders to have them shift their usage to Palantir products. You know, on a similar note, Ernst & Young disclosed in a critical audit matter that Palantir has significant discretion over when to recognize revenue. And then their chief accounting officer resigns the day after filing a 10K. And when you sum it all up, it raises the question of like, hey, first, if this is such an amazing company, why do they need to play so many games in order to obtain customers? Why is it so difficult to sell? Why is the sales force upset? Why are you investing in random SPACs that are going to zero? Why are you talking about buying founder equity out? Why is your chief accounting officer resigning suddenly after 2.5 years? And it also raises the question to me, what I'd like to ask Alex Karp is what % of your revenue and what % of your revenue growth comes from companies you've invested in, comes from companies that you've compensated the founder in any sort of way?
Those are on the balance sheet. It's minimal. That's why I'm saying
the SPAC
they've taken a $300 million loss on this, Edwin. It's done. Like that's
that's the SPAC. No, you didn't even let me finish, Amos. That they disclosed the direct SPAC deals. My theory, my, hypothecation, my speculation is it's not limited to just SPACs. If you're going to play games of, we'll give you $20 million to give us $15 million back plus sign a $100 million contract, you're probably playing games in other ways, such as paying a founder directly to use your product. Or
so your allegation is that your allegations Palantir is going to startups.
Can I finish, Amit?
I'm just summarizing your allegation that they're going to startups. They're doing this quid pro quo essentially, and we don't know about it because it's not public. That's what you're saying.
Well, I'm saying that's what Bloomberg reported, and we don't know the extent of that. We also don't know. There's a lot of soft games you can play. For example, does Peter Thiel pressure his founders to sign spuriously high contracts with Palantir just to inflate the revenue growth? When you do this SPAC nonsense, which accounted for 1/3 of the revenue growth, according to the Wall Street Journal, and your revenue growth is kind of tepid at 20% a year, it just forms these inconsistencies where how can you be killing it on one front, but then you're growing 20% and 1/3 of it's from SPACs, and you're also talking about paying founders directly, and your chief accounting officer is resigning, and your sales force is pissed, and you're like marginally profitable. It is incongruous. It doesn't add up. And that's what confuses me and should be a huge concern for investors that are giving this a nosebleed 15x revenue multiple.
Got it. Understood. Thank you, Edwin, for coming on. I appreciate it. I know this was a little bit of a lines then. We got a little bit heated, but this is what the stock market is about, right? This is what makes a market. Someone's buying, someone's selling. So I appreciated you. Nothing personal. I know either way. And thank you for coming on to the show, and we'll see what happens in the future.
Best of luck, Amit. We'll do this in a year and see what happens.
We'll do this in a year. Yes. Thank you, Edwin. I appreciate it. Everyone, we're having a new podcast called Finance Junkies. It's starting right now live. So if you want to go to that podcast, it's live on this channel. You can go. All 872 of you. Thank you all for being here. And thank you everyone who sent a super chat. This is awesome. Thank you, Edwin. I appreciate it.
Bye. Thank you.
Have a good one. Bye-bye.